Hello and welcome to another Record Sport Facebook Live. My name is Daniel Cott and I'm delighted to be joined by Record Sports Ross Pilcher and all the way from beautiful Florence, Gordon Parks. Guys, how are you?
Daniel, I'm good, you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Gordon, I'll come to yourself. I don't know, who do I need to get in with that does the record rota to get all these gigs that you get?
You think that? You think it's a big jolly. It's not. Look at it's about 25 degrees. Dealing with that kind of heat's that's a problem, right? And I'm about an hour's walk for the centre of town, so it's hardship.
But it's obviously good atmosphere over there ahead of tonight's game.
You know, I'm really surprised at how many Hearts fans have travelled. It's a beautiful city. They've got so much to enjoy, but last night there was so many of them. The suggestion is there'll be 4,000 fans there tonight, Ross, which is astounding to me. I thought maybe 2,000. What have you heard?
Oh, I thought this would be the big one I've got, but I think just about every Hearts fan I know is out in Florence just now. I was getting slightly jealous last night seeing all the social media content, but no, this was the one what the fans were looking forward to. There's been Florence. It's not the easiest place to fly to directly. I know people going via London, they've gone via Germany, they've gone via Spain, they're driving for other places in Europe. This was the one when the draw came out that they were all up for. I think the game's probably the last thing on their minds, to be fair.
You know, Ross, what was great last night, there's a centre, there's Duomo, there's the cathedral, spectacular, there's a lot of bars around there. Hearts fans just enjoying themselves, embracing the whole environment. Florence people enjoying them. The whole thing was great. The atmosphere was perfect. We walked to the stadium yesterday. We had a look around. Everything's set up for tonight. This is proper European football against famous club, proud club. Everything's really there for them, but it's a daunting task.
But you say that, Gordon. Obviously, we know that Fiorentina won comfortably last week at Tynecastle. But then, Ross, at the weekend they went out and were thrashed at home 4-0 by Lazio. If Hearts can get something tonight, they're still with a chance of making it in the knockout stages. I mean, as Gordon says, big ask, but it's not impossible.
Not impossible, but it's a very big if. And we saw last week there was I think even if Hearts had been at full strength tonight, it would have been a big ask, but they've been without their two first choice centre backs. They've got another 4 out tomorrow night. Ginelli's injured, Gary Mackay-Stevens injured, obviously Halkett as well. I just think Fiorentina have got too much for them. You saw them at Tynecastle. I don't think they were as good as Istanbul, but they didn't have to be. They still won pretty comfortably. Help of Hearts keep 11 men on the pitch tonight. You mentioned, obviously, Lazio gave them a bit of a doing at the weekend. It's almost the worst time to play a side when they've come off the back of a big home defeat. The fans turned against them. I think your only hope is really if Hearts can keep it tight, first 20 minutes, first half an hour, maybe try to create a couple of chances themselves, which they didn't really do last week, then it might make things a bit more difficult for Fiorentina, but at the same time they'll be desperate to go out, make a statement to their fans, and as much as I love to be wrong, I just don't see Hearts having the quality to take advantage of them going through a bit of a tough patch. Daniel,
I saw something yesterday at the press conference before the game. Italian journalists almost coming to blows with each other.
Wow.
Extraordinary to watch. The atmosphere in that press room yesterday with Italiano trying to justify the defeat to Lazio, trying to talk up the game. The atmosphere was poisonous. He's under real pressure, and Ross, you're 100% right. It's a perfect storm. You've got a team that's superior in every department. You've got Hearts that are so depleted that Andy Halliday might have to play as full back. You've got no real authority in the centre of defence. You've got problems all over the place. And you've got a manager that knows that this is his only route out. They're 13th in the Serie A table. It's not good enough. And they're gunning for him. So Hearts are probably the perfect tonic for him just now. He knows that. This could be ruthless tonight.
So my spirits will be lifted after a couple of rough days.
Like it. I've never seen journalists actually getting separated, getting pulled apart. It was nuts. Italian people are nuts, aren't
they? Obviously, I think the one thing that we come back to that we've talked about, Ross, it would have been brilliant if Hearts were at full strength, because I feel like 2 wins from their opening 9 games in the league, Fiorentina, they are superior all over the pitch, but I feel like Hearts could have landed a blow in this team across the 2 games at some point. But as we've covered, I think it will just be too big an ask with the players that they've got missing.
Yeah, I think that's been the disappointing thing for Hearts in their 2 home games is, okay, they're playing against sides who are, okay, they've got a lot more quality, they spent a lot more money, they've got a lot bigger budgets, but at the same time, you saw Michael Smith say at the start of the week, they should have been better. They were beaten a little bit too easily. They've talked up, the power Tynecastle can have when it's full and, Hearts are on top of you and the crowd are behind them, but that can work the other way as well. And you've seen that. You can see their goal after 4 minutes last week, and that just kills everything. It goes flat. That makes it much easier for the opposition. And when they've already got, that kind of level of ability that's far higher than Hearts, then it's a long way back. They've had their moments against Istanbul, not as many against Fiorentina. It's been that. That's how I describe it so far at Tynecastle in Europe this season. It's been flat, and ideally you'd have wanted Fiorentina to have lost maybe heavily coming to Tynecastle. It wasn't really the case, and as me and Gordon have said before, I think it's all set up for Fiorentina to go and make a statement tonight.
The way I look at it is, guys, any team with Craig Gordon between the sticks, I know he had a nightmare at the weekend, but any team with Craig Gordon has got half a chance. So
yeah, listen, you're absolutely right. There's no point in being totally defeatist about it. There's big famous results in Hearts' history show that you can conquer massive budgets, better quality. You can conquer that by having a bit of luck in the night. This is a team under pressure. The fans booed them off the pitch on Monday night. How do they react to that if Hearts start well? Mm-hmm. Any team can get a goal early. They could crumble. So many different elements that give Hearts hope. Ross is right. The quality differential is a problem because there's just a better side. Mm-hmm. Anything's possible, and we've got Craig Gordon there. They shall not pass. Hopefully that's the case tonight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right, we need to talk about the other results in Scottish football this week. Obviously, it's not been a great week in Europe for our teams. Ross, last night, we know that Liverpool have got the firepower to do that to just about any team, but when you're one each at 55, 56 minutes, and Rangers have been so great for the first half, that under no circumstances is that acceptable, I would say, for any team.
That was a collapse. We talked about, the importance of Hearts starting well tonight. Well, Rangers did it last night, and, look what happened to... Michael Owen said it on BT that he thought they punched themselves out, and the quality that Liverpool brought on later on against a tiring Rangers team, and they just ripped them apart. But at the same time, I think Rangers, I'm not saying they didn't try the second half, but you could see the heads had gone. They chucked it. They weren't, they didn't have that same intensity. The goals kept going in. It must be demoralising, but you have to keep going. And I know it's difficult when you're bringing off. Mo Salah scores a hat trick in 6 minutes and 12 seconds, which is ridiculous. But at the same time, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst said it, they stopped doing the things that were even making life difficult for Liverpool, never mind what Rangers were getting success for. And, you see what happens. It was a really, really slow one. Regardless of the opposition, you're playing, as you said, 7 at home for a club like Rangers. I think it's the biggest ever competitive defeat. That's a really, really bad one, especially in front of Euro fans. And I'm actually surprised backlash hasn't been greater. I think maybe the fact that Liverpool have the players they do have and have been at the level they've been at over the last few years is maybe worked in Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's favour a little bit, but make no mistake, that's an absolute howler of a result.
I played in a professional game that I lost 8-1, and I remember it really well. And for that result to be, it's clearly a different level, right? But you give up. There's an element of giving up, and there's a scandal. You're at home. The pride for the jersey, the pride to try and keep it down, it wasn't there. I think it speaks volumes about the situation at Rangers just now. And I think, A, they're not a Champions League club. B, there's problems when you've got the collapse. If a team's capable of collapsing the way they did, it tells you a lot about the fabric of the squad and the psyche around it. It's a massive problem. And I think the backlash should be more fierce. It's a humiliation, titanic humiliation at home. We'll speak about this result for years. An embarrassment. And I think the consequences should reflect that.
I was going to ask that, Gordon. That, obviously we spoke about Dundee United earlier in the season. That was one of the kind of all-time worst Scottish performances. I get Liverpool, Mo Salah, Firmino was amazing. I thought Núñez looked like obviously a star player. But even so, 7-1.
I was at Tannadice and I thought, again, I've never actually seen a professional team give up the way they did. Dundee United gave up. Let's not sugarcoat it. Rangers gave up in front of their own fans. It's inexplicable that when you're playing at that level, you've worked so hard to get a game against the cream of Europe and give in like that. It's an abdication of responsibility. There's guys earning good money. They fell short quality-wise because they're not good enough. But you can still be difficult to get through, and it was so easy. It was humiliation and embarrassment. And the consequences should reflect that. I don't understand why the backlash hasn't been more severe.
Would you, when you say consequences, Gordon, do you think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst should be under pressure?
I think the manager goes for that. I think certainly when I watched it and I saw the capitulation reflects the manager. The manager has to take responsibility. How big a club are Rangers? If they believe that that's okay, that they can move on from that without the consequences, how big are they? It has to reflect how humiliating it was. Are the Rangers fans convinced with the manager? They weren't before the game. How can they be now?
Ross, the cat is firmly amongst the pigeons with that one. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst should be sacked for that. What do you think?
I can see the argument in it. As Gordon says, it's Rangers losing their. It's the biggest ever competitive defeat. If you're and people look back for years and years, and he'll be the manager that allowed that to happen. These will be the players that allowed that to happen. You can't rip up their contracts. The buck stops with them.
Ross, do you think that last season's road to Seville disguised a lot of problems, disguised a lot of failings? Do you think that kind of gave them a kind of pass? Because Rangers weren't convincing last year. They're certainly not. I think they're a poorer team this year.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it papered a lot of cracks. I gave them a lot of credit in the bank, but they're coming into this knowing Champions League isn't Europa League. Okay, they beat Dortmund, but I think they're probably the best team to beat last season. They've stepped up a level, and they've been, let's be honest, they've been absolutely nowhere near. I think the recruitment has been suspect. Cholak's been great, don't get me wrong, he's been an absolute star for them. In other areas, has it been up to the level it has been before? No. Is that on Van Bronckhorst? I think that's more a question for Ross Wilson, but I think had this happened in any other season, had Rangers not reached a Europa League final last season, I think last night we'd have probably seen them gone any other campaign.
Yeah. I think the thing for me as well, Rangers were brilliant in the first half. They were excellent. They were really good. Arfield scored a really good goal. They had Liverpool on the ropes at times, and just no one could have foresaw that coming in the second half.
Daniel, I get what you're saying, but if you're capable of imploding in that fashion, what it does, it speaks volumes about everything around the place. It speaks volumes about the team. Only certain teams are capable of actually. Liverpool can do it to anybody, right? They did it to. They've hammered teams in England. But this is Champions League level. It's at home. Mm-hmm. It's 45 minutes. How many goals? 6 goals in the second half. Over how many period of minutes? Biggest embarrassment I can remember in a Scottish club in Europe ever.
Well, move on to the night before against Celtic against RB Leipzig. Obviously, Celtic in the first half. Ross, brilliant, really good. Created several chances. I don't know how Kyogo managed to miss that header. But ultimately they're out again, and it's really frustrating, I think, for Celtic fans, because what do they need to compete at this level?
I think taking their chances would have helped. There's been a couple of games now that have not been far away. Real Madrid is Real Madrid. Again, they played well first half, but to a lesser extent than Rangers, kind of quality took over in the second half, and Celtic again kind of stopped doing the things that were bringing them success, and they were punished. Probably should have beaten Shakhtar away from home against taking chances. But when you're not scoring goals, do you then maybe think, right, maybe I need to change how I play in these games a little bit differently, maybe be a little bit less open. Against RB Leipzig as well. They're a good side. I know Rangers beat them last season. They look better this year. I think they've shown that the way they're playing in the Champions League, which is a step up. I don't think Celtic are far away. I think maybe luck always plays a part, but I think maybe being a little bit more streetwise in terms of their style and their approach, and maybe thinking, okay, we need to keep it tight a little bit. We're playing against really good teams here, and if we're not going to take our chances, they're going to get them. They're more likely to score them. So I think maybe a slight change of approach. I know Ange Postecoglou wants to stick to his principles, but it said on BT the other night, you can Stan Petrov was saying that you get judged on what you achieve in your results rather than your style of playing. People aren't going to say, oh, you got knocked out of the group stage, but they played some nice stuff. It's going to eventually, when they get back in next year, they have to have learned for this campaign, and they need to put that right.
Mm-hmm. Gordon, there's Celtic, I thought, played well, and actually, see if you look at the 4 performances, I think they played well for long spells in all of the games, but I think I've got a problem with this atmosphere that's building around Celtic. It's almost like for want of a better phrase, like a Disneyland club. But these players across Europe come, they talk about the atmosphere, how great it is, and then come away with a win. Celtic haven't won a home game in the Champions League for 9 years.
Yeah.
They only won 2 home games since Tony Watt against Barcelona. I mean, that's not good enough for a club of Celtic size.
Again, Ross is spot on. Celtic's reality in Europe at Champions League level is they can perform well for periods in the game. That's their level, but the quality always tells. That's why they're getting beat routinely. And the naivety to think that they've got this great atmosphere and it's the best in the land and everybody enjoys coming there. It's becoming a cliche because teams arrive and get a lift from it. And okay, Lionel Messi saying it's the best stadium that he's played at for atmosphere and all that. Who cares? If your record is so bad, and there's obviously a naivety there because you're not punishing teams, you're not taking. Celtic have to score when the moment's right for them. They're not doing it. They pass up chance after chance. They can play well for periods, but great teams and good teams are separated by the quality margins and taking their chances. And that's what Celtic are. They're just a level below, and their record at home is abysmal. And I have to face up to that reality. I get what you're saying.
Right. I think Ross, it was made even worse the other night's result by the fact that Shakhtar inexplicably got or almost beat Real Madrid. Real needed a last-minute equaliser. Celtic can still go through, but I think I'm right in saying you have to beat Shakhtar at home and take something in the Bernabeu.
Yeah, it's like Hearts. It's possible, but it's going to be a massive ask. And Shakhtar, everything they've been through, but you forget that's a club that's been regulars in the Champions League for years and years and know how to get results. Yeah. To an extent, it is all new to the Celtic squad. It's very new to Ange Postecoglou, as well as he's done domestically. I guess to use the word Gordon did, it's maybe a bit naive to expect you can just play the same way against much better opposition and get the same results. I think it's shown that's not possible. I think the best teams, regardless of how well they're playing at this level, they find a way to win. They find a way to get results. If Shakhtar playing in a neutral country can take Real Madrid to the 94th, 95th minute, there's no reason Celtic can't do that to similar level teams next year if they're maybe just a little bit cuter, a little bit more streetwise and smarter about it.
And not to labour the point in Celtic too much, Gordon, but especially when they go into a game missing their captain, missing Jota, one of their best players. Starfelt started every game last season. Ange Postecoglou's been brilliant. Was the other night a night where he maybe had to sacrifice his principles a little bit and been a bit more harder to beat?
He has to have other options. He has to have other approaches. I think he's maybe caught up in his own trap there a wee bit by talking about this philosophy that it has, and he won't be flexible on it. I think it has to be more. I hate the word pragmatic. We have routinely talked about the same things with Celtic. He is missing these two most influential players. You have to then make provision for that and be difficult to beat. And the Celtic have that in their locker under Ange? I haven't seen it. And again, we could be saying the same thing next year. He has to show that he can coach in different ways and get results in different a variety of methods to do that. It's all very well being an idealist, but we'd rather be realists, and Celtic aren't there yet. They need to find other ways to get results.
I'm going to end this, guys, on a happier note. I think Hearts are going to restore the reputation of Scottish football tonight in Florence. Lawrence Shankland double 2-0. That's what I'm going to tip. Fingers crossed. I think that brings us to the end of today's Record Sport Facebook Live. I should say for everyone watching, thanks very much. You can find us also at dailyrecord_sport on Instagram and at record_sport on Twitter. Ross, thanks very much. And Gordon, try not to work too hard out there in Florence.
Back to sleep in a minute.
Guys, thanks very much, and thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys.